In this video, I'm going to be setting up a saltwater tank strictly for predators and adding in the first predator fish. This journey all starts in my garage, where I have the tank I'm going to be setting up for these fish. So to get started, I've got to get it moved inside. I also went ahead and got some rocks and sand. I got it all inside the tank and started adding in water. Then I realized my tank wasn't level. This is how full I got it before noticing it was unlevel. So I had to drain it all back out in order to get the tank level. If you ever wondered what could possibly happen if you just leave a large fish tank full of water unlevel, well, it can start leaking or even worse, explode, leaving gallons of water all over the floor, which does not sound like a good time to me, so it was necessary to get it level. So with all that out of the way, I started filling it back up and eventually got the pump turned on. I have my filtration all set up, but I'm also going to be adding in these ceramic rings to help grow beneficial bacteria. I took some already cycled media from another tank to help speed up the tank cycle. And finally, I added on the light. Now this water is going to be foggy for a while, but it doesn't really matter for me because all I'm going to be doing is waiting for the tank to cycle before adding in any fish. The next morning, this is how the tank was looking. I couldn't see much through it still. And the morning after that, still not much clearer. And finally, a couple days later, it was all cleared up, with dust all over the glass. After about 7 days, the cycle was finally done, thanks to the seeded media from before, so I did a water change on the tank to get it ready for fish. And the first residents of this tank are actually going to be these guys, white striped damsels. The reason I'm adding these is to grow the bacteria in the tank even more so it will be able to handle all the waste a predator will put off. And these could potentially be food since predators do eat live fish. Once I added them in, they all went and huddled up in the corner behind the rock cave. Damsels can be aggressive towards each other, but so far these guys weren't fighting each other, which is a good sign. A few hours later, I wanted to go ahead and try to feed them to see if they were ready to eat. At first, these two immediately came to the surface to grab pellets. I waited to see if the third would ever come out, but it never did. So I began looking all around the tank to try and find him. And eventually, I found him sitting in the opposite corner of the tank, so I went over and fed him separately. The next day, they were all swimming around together, getting along just fine. I think eventually I will need to add another cave on the right side of the tank though. Then I had a problem to deal with in one of my other tanks. This peppermint shrimp needed to be relocated, so he's going to be joining the damsels for now. So after I got him acclimated, it was time to get him in. The damsels immediately went over to investigate, but decided to leave him alone.
Who are you?
The shrimp won't be staying in here as I don't want him to end up as a snack for any future fish. If you'd like to see where the peppermint shrimp ends up, go check out my cheapest saltwater tank video. He eventually made his way to the corner of the tank. I'll come back later to check up on him. A couple hours later, I came to feed the damsels, and there he was, coming out of the cave to get some food. But his time in this tank won't be too long, and with the food dropping to the bottom, I needed to start thinking about getting a cleanup crew, as the rock was starting to show a lot more algae on it. So a few days later, I went to my local fish store to buy a cleanup crew. I was thinking mainly snails for this tank, as crabs and shrimp would be eaten. So I eventually settled on this big conch. It should put a dent in some of this algae. And I also got some Nazarius snails and turbo snails. After I acclimated them, I got them all dropped in. Now we just have to wait on these guys to get to eating. I came back to check on them later and they had all started spreading out to get to work. I dropped in some food for the damsels, but something is missing in this tank. Notice how the food just drops straight down to the bottom? We need to get some current in this tank. This will help with filtration and oxygen in the water, and stop waste from piling up on the bottom of the tank. It will just make this guy's job a whole lot easier. So the company Higer reached out to me and asked if I could review this wave pump. The Higer Flow 1 Aquarium Wave Maker. I got the pump for 55 to 75 gallons, which is perfect because it's just what this tank was needing. So for now, I'm going to add it into the tank and get it all set up. This pump was easy to set up, just a couple of cords to plug in and it's good to go. So far you can see it stirring up the tank, giving a nice current in the water. The fish seem to be enjoying the water flow already. So I'm going to be running this pump for the next couple of days so I can give my review of the new wave pump. So now I've had a few days with this pump running inside of the tank. It has been quiet, which is a very important factor to me when purchasing equipment because my tanks are in my room where I sleep. This pump hasn't had any noise or vibration. It's definitely been a big help keeping waste from just collecting on the bottom of the tank, and the fish are still enjoying it. I've even had a power outage happen and didn't experience anything bad happen. No reverse flow or anything like that. I've been pretty happy with its performance, not too much flow and not too little. So here's where I keep the controller for the wave pump. I have it set to the settings that fit this tank. It has a bunch of different settings to choose from and a range for flow. You've got multiple different modes. For me, I like to use the constant flow. But there is a night mode, which I've used a couple of times. At night, the wave pump uses less flow, letting the fish sleep instead of having to swim all night. There's also different wave modes that are able to be adjusted with frequency. There's cross flow, which can send out water in a circular motion instead of just straight. Sine, which is more of a gentle wave. Or random, which is just random wave movement. This pump also has a feeding timer, so you can have it turned off when feeding and it will start back up automatically when the timer is up. This wave pump's constant flow setting also has 20 different levels, so there is a lot to choose from. But I like to have mine set on 5. I would say this wave pump is great, and actually for the price you pay for all these features added on, it's not bad at all. It also does have a guard on the side to keep things out of it. The link for this product is down in the description if you'd like to check it out for yourself. And thank you to Higer for letting me review this wave pump. Now, a couple days later, I had to drive an hour away to this fish store in order to get the specific predator fish I wanted to add in first to the aquarium. When I got here, I first stopped to check out the clownfish that they had. But I was only here for a predator fish. So I got the one I was after and drove another hour back home. Now I'll reveal the first predator fish to be added. The dwarf lionfish. It's a great looking fish. I wanted to add this one first because it's actually going to be a little bit tricky to keep, and I want to make sure it's going to work out without other fish inside the tank that could bite me. So these dwarf lionfish come in a couple different kinds. The one I got is a zebra dwarf lionfish. They have fuzzy dwarfs, which can be different colors like red or yellow. These fish are venomous. They have spines all down their back, which can sting you and leave you in a lot of pain, with the potential for death if you're allergic to the venom. They also are fish that prefer live food. Anything that can fit in their mouth, they will eat. However, the dwarfs don't get as big as regular lionfish. These guys only get to about 7 inches long. But the main part I'm worried about is that they can be difficult to get to eat. They can go weeks without eating and are normally shy when added into new aquariums. I got this fish first because if I can't get him to eat anything, I may have to end up getting him out of the tank and taking him back to the fish store, because I don't want him to die inside of the tank. And that would be a lot harder to do if I had to worry about other fish biting me while trying to remove him. Now I'm going to get him acclimated so he can get into the tank. I went ahead and fed the damsels, so hopefully they don't bother him too much when he goes in. The lionfish has now finished acclimating, and now it's time to get him inside the tank. I turned the light to blue so it won't bother him too much at first. As soon as he went in, he swam towards the heater, and the damsels immediately went to go check him out. I don't think he'll be able to eat these damsels. They look to be too big compared to his size. He went around the back of the cave, and since he was covered a little bit, I decided to turn the light on to see him a little better. He stayed behind the cave for a while, so I left him alone for a little bit to see what he would do. He made his way into the cave and just stayed there for a while. He may not move much for the first day as he gets used to the new tank. I'll come back a bit later to try and see if he will eat. I cut up some frozen shrimp and thawed it out to try and feed him. but no interest initially, so I dropped it near him to see if maybe he'd eat it. He just sat and looked at it for a while, before eventually turning his back to the food. I guess he won't be eating today.
Bruh.
The next day, he decided to perch on top of the cave, and the damsels seemed to be getting used to him. The big one does not mind swimming up close to him at all. Today, I was going to try the frozen shrimp again. So, I just shook it in front of him for a little while, trying to see if he would at least take a bite of it. Still, he won't eat.
Just do it.
I eventually left it next to him on the rock, to see if maybe he'd eat if I wasn't here. But when I came back, the damsels had the shrimp, just passing it around to each other and eating chunks of it. So the next day, I tried some fast-sinking pellets, hoping maybe he'd try to eat one of these. But again, the damsels had just decided they'd eat them instead. Now, I'm going to try and change some things up. I'm going to try and keep the light on the tank off for a couple days, and hopefully it helps him get used to the tank a little bit better. Today, I'm trying Rod's frozen food, to see if maybe he'll eat this. But still, no luck. The snails and damsels decided they'd eat it instead. For this next attempt, I'm going to be using this selcum and soaking the food in it, which may help entice him to eat. After it was done soaking, I lowered it down to him and left it on the sandbed in front of him. And finally, he took one small bite. He didn't go after the chunk of food, but a little piece floating by. This is progress. Eventually, the snails came in and cleaned up the majority of it. I've been monitoring him with this Rod's frozen food, and he does eat, just very little of it, so he's not eating much. So now, a day later, and I'm going to be trying live shrimp, to see if he'll eat this instead. When I dropped it in, he immediately swam over to it, and eventually even tried to bite at it. He missed, but he was trying to bite. So I left him alone with 2 live shrimp in the tank for a few days, and eventually they disappeared, so I guess he is actually eating. But I'm going to be trying to switch him over to the frozen foods over time, as it will be a lot easier to get and feed him. If I can't get him on to any frozen food and just ghost shrimp, I may end up taking him back to the fish store because these ghost shrimp aren't the most nutritional food for him, and I don't want him to suffer from me not being able to switch him to frozen. I do plan on getting another predator for this tank, one that will be ready to eat when it gets in, so if you want to see what I'm going to be adding next, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. That's going to be it for this video. Thanks for watching.